Welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute devotional podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse. Broadcast from the ever-beautiful Sharonville, Ohio, on the sunny side of Cincinnati. Hey friends, welcome back to Daily Dose Radio, sending MP3 vibrations around the world, sharing the gospel, one psalm at a time. So here we are, Psalm 32, and what a gospel psalm we have this week. This is delicious. Blessed is the man whose transgression is forgiven, whose sin is covered. Blessed is the man to whom the Lord does not impute iniquity, and in whose spirit there is no deceit. This is not the man who's working for his salvation. Oh, no, no. No, this is the man who's depending upon God for mercy. That's the man who is blessed because he's poor in spirit, and those poor in spirit will receive the kingdom. All right, let's today look at verses 3 and 4. But before we read 3 and 4, let me just say something about the structure of the psalm, the overall structure. We talked yesterday about the introduction. It's a maskil, so it's an instructional psalm or a teaching psalm. I want you also to notice the selahs. We have 3 selahs in this psalm, which nicely and neatly divides the psalm into 4 pieces. Now, of course, again, I have to artificially divide the psalm in fifths so that I can do a Monday through Friday broadcast. But that's not the way the psalmist intended this to be read. He intended it to be read and to be seen in 4 pieces. Piece 1, we have 8 lines and 32 words in verses 1 through 4. That being said, we come to the Selah, then there was a break, and then we have just one verse before the next Selah. And in that one verse, we have 6 lines, 14 words, and that verse is about causing the Lord to know sin, my sin. This is the verse of confession. Then we have the Selah, which breaks right there after verse 5, and then we have 6 more lines in 6 and 7, 23 words, and then we have the next Selah. And then we have the final piece, which is 8 through 11, which is 11 lines. So it's nicely balanced, this psalm. We have the first 4 verses. In 1, 2, 3, and 4, we have the last 4 verses, 8, 9, 10, and 11, coming after the last Selah. So it's divided into 4 pieces. It's very beautifully constructed. It's intentional because as we read it, then our eyes can quickly determine where the emphasis is here in the psalm. And doing that, we notice that the emphasis is in verses 5, 6, and 7, because there we have the shorter pieces that are situated in the very center of the psalm. Let's go back up and let me read verses 3 and 4. For when I was silent, my bones wore out, while I roared all day long. For day and night your hand was heavy upon me. My juice is turned into the fever heat of summer. Now I'm going to go a little bit longer today here in this particular description, so this will be a little longer than 5 minutes. When I was silent, my bones wore out. This is what happens when we don't confess our sin. When we are silent, what are we silent about? We're silent about our transgression. We're silent about our iniquity. We're silent about our sin. So when we're silent, our bones wear out. It actually has a physical it actually has a result in the physical body when we don't confess sin to the Lord. Listen to me, Christian. If you're not daily confessing sin, you're endangering yourself physically because this just has an effect. It redounds in the spirit and affects the body. Notice what he says, day and night your hand was heavy upon me. Notice he says your hand. Imagine how heavy his little finger is. And yet the entire hand is on him. So there's this pressing of the Lord. He's pushing us. He's putting pressure on us. Why? Not to punish us, but to humble us, to make us poor in spirit so that we'll confess our sin. You see, day and night your hand was heavy upon me. This is how long he's been silent. Then notice at verse 4, my juice is turned into the fever heat of summer. That is his juice. Some of your translations are going to have my moisture or my my fluids, I guess, I don't know. But the idea is the sap that's inside that gives life. So that juice that's in you that gives you life, that is going to be dried up in a drought. And he says it's the fever heat. So if you can imagine the worst fever you've ever had and how dehydrated that can make a person, that's what he's talking about. So the moisture inside, that life-giving fluid inside the man, is dried up. Why is it drying up? Because he has not confessed his sin. His silence, his roaring inside, I don't know why. Maybe he's angry at God. Maybe he's angry at himself. Maybe he's ashamed. Maybe something. And he's not gone to the Lord yet in prayer. And so he's saying, I was silent. My bones wore out, and your hand was heavy upon me, and my juices, well, they dried up like I had a fever in the summertime, that kind of fever. And then we come to the first Selah. So we understand the blessedness, verses 1 and 2. Sin is covered. Transgression is forgiven. The Lord is not imputing iniquity. And then we come to 3 and 4. When I was silent, this is what happened. And this sets us up for what we're going to find in verse 5, 6, and 7. So don't miss out now. You come back tomorrow. We're going to look at verse 5. Tomorrow is really important to understand this psalm. So join me then on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. I'm David Smith. The music today has been performed by the Bluegrass Experiment. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time on Daily Dose Radio.